Senator Marshall is next, and then, depending on who's here, our order is Senators Lujan, Graham, Warner, Whitehouse, and Merkley. Senator Marshall.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Today I'm here fighting for my grandchildren's future, for your grandchildren's future, for our grandchildren's future. They're going to have to live in a world where we're spending more money on interest than we do on Medicare, on the military, because of our appetite, our unquenched appetite for spending money. When their children are going through school, there'll be less monies for good schools, for good hospitals, for high-speed internet, for a strong military. Because of the spending we're doing today, they will suffer the consequences of this interest. I want to quote something that you said and you've written as well, Director Young. The President's budget reduces the deficit by $3 trillion over the next 10 years. I think that's deceitful. I think it's disingenuous. You've repeated here multiple times. You decrease it from what to what? You decrease it from 19 to $16 trillion. Only in Washington, D.C. do you make the claims that increasing the cumulative deficits by $16 trillion is a decrease. At the end of the day, you're adding $16 trillion that my grandchildren will be paying interest on. I think it's disingenuous, and I think the American public gets that. My first question, Director Young, how much money is the federal government going to spend this year?
Senator, the budget, as many slides have shown, is about $7 trillion.
Okay, how much do you think? So we're going to spend in the current fiscal year 2024, we're going to spend about $7 trillion and then $7 trillion in the next fiscal year. Is that correct?
Well, Senator, we haven't put out a budget for the next fiscal year, but if you're talking about baselines, if nothing changes, calendar year 24 outlays will be about $7 trillion. This budget year, about $7.3 trillion.
Okay, thank you. I would just point out that from over the last 5 years that government spending has went up over 50% with no end in sight. Next, I want to talk about budget deficits for a second. $2.8 trillion, we can blame that all on COVID if you want to. Make sure it's the same graph I'm looking at. But we continue with these budget deficits of, approaching $2 trillion and perhaps more. I don't think anyone can argue that that's the future. And then we look at our national debt, of course, that we're going to add another $2 trillion to our national debt. That's at the end of the day, budgets be damned. I want to turn and ask a couple questions about Ukraine funding. Yesterday, Politico reported that the Department of Defense has sent $10 billion worth of weapons to Ukraine that it does not have the money to replace. Is that reporting accurate?
Senator, I think no one was officially quoted from the administration in the article. I've read the article. So I'm not going to comment on unauthorized or people who speak on background. What I will say is if our Ukraine supplemental passed
I understand
the House,
that. Is the $10 billion funding accurate?
Senator, if we had the Ukraine funding,
I understand that. That's not my question. I wish you would just answer my questions and not divert to different
Senator, you're asking me
things.
a question based on unnamed sources.
So is the $10 billion figure accurate?
We are very disappointed.
That really, in reality, we didn't just send $113 billion. By the time there's a big difference between what these weapons we send cost versus the value of them today.
That's right.
So in reality, this is not a question. In a reality, we've really sent them $121 billion, and you said nothing to dispute that as being accurate. I want to go on. Here is a question for you. Does the administration have the ability to provide any additional aid to Ukraine in the absence of congressional action, yes or no?
So, Senator, we have to do the supplemental.
I understand. I understand that's your opinion. We don't have to do anything. That's your opinion. Will you just try to answer my question? Does the administration have the ability to provide any additional aid to Ukraine in the absence of congressional action? That's a yes or no question.
Senator, if we have additional replenishment funds.
I understand that. So you're not going to answer my question.
No, Senator, I'm trying to. If we have additional replenishment funds, if materials come in cheaper than we thought, that will give us the room to maybe do another drawdown package. We're looking at that. The Department of Defense goes in and buys equipment. If some comes in cheaper and we have
Let me
savings,
ask you the question
we
in
will
a
do
different
that.
way. Will this administration provide Ukraine any additional aid in any form until Congress passes the supplemental?
Senator, if we believe we can do that, to your first question, if we believe we could do that without affecting U.S. readiness in a detrimental way, we absolutely will. It is the president's commitment that we will not let Vladimir Putin march through Ukraine.
But we've been
So
told
we will
over and
look for
over by this
everything we can do.
administration that we need to spend another $10 or $20 billion to replenish what we've given to Ukraine. So we didn't properly account for what we've already sent them. I still think we're $10 or $20 billion short of what we appropriated
Senator, we're worried
versus
about
what we
defense
sent them.
readiness past the supplemental.
Thanks, Senator.